Hello, everybody. Summer has arrived. I'm not sure about you, but it's freaking hot in here. Uh, so I wish I was in Japan enjoying the fireworks and everything. But I am stuck here with you, or maybe you're stuck here with me. Doesn't matter. Speaking of hot things, years ago, monoliths and were the hot things, and Meteor with Node.js with them. And that was many years ago. Time has changed, and over the years, we've got a new cool girl on the block, as they say, and that became microservices. Though lately, that has been also a bit in disputes, and some people have been talking, going back to the old hot girl being the monoliths. But today, we'll be talking about microservices and implementing them with MeteorJS. You would be asking, who the heck are you? Isn't Jan Küster the guy for microservices and Meteor? Well, so it's a point to you. My name is Jan Dvorak. I am a storyteller coming to you live from Prague. And with me today, also, we have Alim. Hi, Alim.
Hey guys, this is Alim Gafar from New York City.
And with that, let's jump straight to the news. One of the other hot things on the blog, React 19 is edging towards the, say, initial release. We already have release candidates, but it's not all, beach and whatever alcoholic drinks you drink there. Because I don't drink alcoholic drinks, I would be sticking with green tea probably. Specifically, what is going on right now in React, there's a big discussion about suspense. There has been a big change in suspense that kind of went initially under the radar until people started testing it more. It also does some strange things with Meteor as well. The main thing is that as I scroll down here, as you can see, this is the React 18. Once you have a suspense block, all things in there kind of start rendering or working on asynchronously together. While in React 19, we suddenly get a waterfall. As you can imagine, that has broken a lot of use cases, or at the very least has had a negative impact on performance as well. So speaking of performance, there's another issue on that because this is one of the issues. So a lot of testing around React 19 and a lot of discussion. If we go, from previous thing, the React team has taken the feedback and they are looking how to fix that. I've heard that in the latest version, they have kind of reversed it, and we shall see how it develops. A lot of people here, like Tanner Lindsley of React Query Frame, has also waded in, and there's a big discussion going around it. And for me, I'm just sitting in the background waiting to see how it's going to go and how it's going to impact Meteor. So a lot of interesting things going on there. Speaking of interesting things coming up, state of JavaScript results have been released. And that is pretty much all I'm going to mainly say about it. Meteor is featured there on a few occasions. It's still around, especially when it comes to the backend and similar. But it's, sadly not as prominent as it used to be. I will probably be doing more of a deep dive either next week or maybe a special episode over the weekend. So stay tuned. And if you so choose to, you can wait in. We have a topic on the forums that you can discuss the results and anything related to this.
I think it's worthwhile for everybody to try to participate in this survey. So that is something I think that we want to encourage you to do. The reason I think Meteor is not as prominent is because we don't participate in the survey as much. And so there is a feeling that, we're a dying community or we just don't exist. And I think that's a wrong view, especially with 3.0 now being out and making the leaps that it has. I think we have an obligation to ourselves, to the community, to really, put ourselves out there, go take the survey and figure out, you don't have to figure anything out. Just go take the survey and they'll get the results, and then we'll be able to see what we're all talking about.
Yes, we'll keep you up to date as the new survey will come out. That's usually in fall. So these are the results from last year. And I think it's going to be interesting to kind of compare that with, Meteor 3 releasing this year, how, this year's survey is going to be impacted by that.
I'm a little embarrassed right now because I thought that this was the actual request for the survey. I didn't realize that we're talking about the survey results. So apologies, everybody. Go read it. Go find out what they're saying about Meteor in it. And make sure that motivates you for when the survey comes out again, that you go and you participate in it.
Yeah, I highly also recommend it because you usually learn a lot about some of the new technologies or even language syntax that you might not have learned about. State of JavaScript is probably like the biggest and kind of, I would say, coolest and hottest survey that there is around this, but there are also a lot of other that are constantly going on. I think recently I saw something maybe on Stack Overflow happening, or maybe I just mistaken for something else, but there's always some surveys happening around, so make sure to take them and make sure to mention Meteor.
Storyteller, you used to do, I believe, the state of Meteor, correct?
Yes. Well, kind of.
Do you think you're going to revive that?
If time and situation allows, I would love to, but it's a lot of work to then do that. The biggest thing then is to kind of clean the data from any personally identifiable data, because people tend to write a lot of comments so that if you that can be traced out. Sure. So that needs to be gone, and so I have to read all the replies, and then I have to do all the math around it. So if I can maybe find a better way how to do it that is more automated, similar to state of JavaScript, then I will consider. Maybe since it's also open source, I will probably see if I can fork it and what I can do with it.
How about this? I'll make a commitment to help you if you want to do it.
Sounds good.
All right, great. And with that, we're talking about, Meteor being relevant still. And there was an article not too long ago that the Meteor team found and pushed out in Twitter. We're always looking for articles on Meteor, and it's kind of funny. Instead of independently finding it, Google search is not what it used to be. I had to find it through this Twitter post, and I don't mind resharing something that's already been shared here. There is an article called "The Renaissance of MeteorJS," and it's written by Maximilian Stroh, who goes by the handle Anonyfox, and that is his blog. And on the Anonyfox blog, he writes about coming back to Meteor as a former MeteorJS user. And when he left, he was a little disillusioned, and now he finds it a little more polished and relevant. Now, the article isn't written with the current 3.0 information. And so he does go through, and he has some small hangups. The biggest one seems to be that it doesn't natively support Apple Silicon. Well, when Max wrote this, when the Anonyfox blog post posted about this, it was on the 2.x series, which, as most of you know, runs on Node.js 14. The issue with Apple Silicon support, the M1, M2, M3 chips, is that the native support is a function of what Node.js can support. And Node.js did not support native silicon until version 16. So with Meteor 3.0 running on, I believe is it on Node.js 20 or is it 22?
20.
It's on 20. There is, by definition, native Apple Silicon support. So I'm hoping that Max goes back, tries 3.0, and gives us, his feedback on it and see whether or not he might want to continue working with Meteor again. But I think that this is a great little article. We'll post the links. If you guys want to get the links to anything that we're talking about today, we have a newsletter, and you will find the link to the newsletter in the show notes. I will probably pull that up at some point in here and put it on screen. But it is one of those things that, whoops, that shouldn't be there. Hang on, let's get this is the link to the newsletter. And so for the past 3 weeks now, we've been sending out on every Monday morning, we've been sending out this newsletter that features all the links that we talk about in the actual episodes themselves. So there's still going to be some work to backport and get the links out of older episodes, put them in, and then make them available. But if you want to stay current, go ahead and do this. And if you like what you're hearing so far, I'd suggest that you punch that like button. Let us know that you really appreciate this. And while you're at it, why don't you just hit that subscribe button so you get notifications whenever we have an update. All right. And with that, I think there's some current MeteorJS news that you want to talk about on the project itself. Is that right, Storyteller?
Yes, correct. We have our weekly update. We had last week release candidate 4. We have, was it in 2 weeks or less? Yes, actually, no, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sorry. On July 8th is the scheduled official final release of Meteor 3. And they are on Tuesday, July 8th. So there are some certain things that are, kind of being worked on. So I just want to kind of give you an update. If something big comes along in the current release candidate 4, we can probably expect release candidate 5. But for right now, the Meteor software team is working to updating the documentation, upgrading Node to version 20.14. Since 2015 came out earlier this week, I think that's going to change to 2015. And I would say, general other small improvements and fixes here and there, specifically to version resolution process. And for me, a bit surprisingly, there's also React Router server-side rendering as well included in this. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward, because if there's like an official implementation or something along those lines, that's going to be, especially for React, React users, a bit of a game changer to how we build React apps in Meteor. So, and of course, in the meantime, we also in Meteor community packages are releasing new versions. And betas, release candidates, and so on. So if package you use is maintained by Meteor community packages, check out the repositories, and usually there is a pull request for Meteor 3 release, and that one has the latest. You usually scroll towards the end, that will tell you if there is like a latest release, or you can use the Meteor show within a package and -- show all to see if there are like any betas. But it's good to, if you check out the repository, so that you can see if there are like any breaking changes and similar. Most recently, I've released yesterday accounts link package, so more of that will be coming in, and once we have the official release, we'll be probably releasing the final versions of many of those packages, if not earlier. And with that said, I have some personal news. I found this very interesting, open source service or company, or however you want to call it, called call.com. And I've created my account. So call.com/storyteller take that, all your impersonator that forced me to go to Storyteller CZ on our social media. So you can go there, and what I'm offering you is you can schedule a call with me if you want to consult or to Meteor 3 migration or anything else related to Meteor. It's a paid consultation. I am currently running a discount specifically for Meteor 3 migration. I will keep this discount as is until the official Meteor 3 release, and then the price is going to go up. So if you want to discuss with me anything related to Meteor 3, or if you want, my help during that time about something specific in your application or related to any packages, I am at your disposal, and you can select the time, and we can then have a meeting.
Really cool. Thank you. I think that's a great resource. And if you have an opportunity to utilize Jan's time, there's worse that you could do. I think this is a terrific offer, and take advantage of it when you can. By the way, a little bit of drama in the tech world today. As many of you know, we use other resources, and we recommend using other resources for hosting your static content in order to speed up delivery of, or speed up the rendering of your pages. And very often we use different types of CDNs. One of the most famous ones out there is Cloudflare, and they have a very generous tier for free use. And so many of us, for our small projects, we use Cloudflare. For many, many years, it's been a really great resource. And one of the other things that they've done recently is they've now added JavaScript native RPC to Cloudflare Workers, and that's written into a blog by Kenton Varda on the Cloudflare blog. And he talks about how Cloudflare Workers now feature a built-in remote procedure call system enabling seamless worker-to-worker and worker-to-durable object communication with almost no boilerplate, no schemas, no routers, just define methods of a class, then call them, and that's it. And it sounds like it's a terrific way to put some edge compute out there. So I thought I'd share that. And I thought when I first found this article and I read about it, it sounds like, wow, this is great. I'm kind of curious to see how that prices out. I haven't gone to the pricing page to find out whether or not this is a free feature that you could use or if it's a paid feature. But in the meantime, drama has ensued. And there has been a lot of discussion on YouTube lately about Cloudflare's aggressive tactics for trying to upgrade some of their paying customers, and pushing them to their enterprise plan. Their enterprise plans are very, very expensive. The Primogen, who is one of these big YouTube tech talking heads, I don't know what I'd call him otherwise. I mean, I find the stuff that he talks about when it's tech, it's really useful, and then his take on things tend to be very measured. So he has a different channel called The Primetime where he does reaction videos, and he's reacting to an article that somebody wrote with regard to their experience with Cloudflare recently, where Cloudflare moved them or wanted to move them from a $250 a month plan that they were on that we're very happy with into a $250,000 plan. Now, there's a lot of back and forth. There is some information that is not clear to us as to what the motivations are. Obviously, the aggrieved party is going to tell their story from their perspective and make themselves be as sympathetic as possible. And of course, Cloudflare is going to try to defend their positioning. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But if you're interested in this, I think you should take a look and see what it's like. Wow, Gaps. So our new developer advocate at Meteor says that he has actually met the Primogen, and he's an actual nice guy. Met him in Brazil. That's kind of cool. So that's it. That's all I want to say about this. I think that there's a great service there. I think one of the points that is made very well by others is that if you don't want to get trapped in an ecosystem, you may not want to use features that are only specific to that ecosystem. One of the problems that this company is having is migrating to another CDN because some of the features that they're using in Cloudflare don't translate directly over to other services. So it's not simply just like, let's just move our assets and then move on. So anyway, let that be a lesson to you all as you think about who you partner with, who you use, your vendor relationships. Always think about what is your exit strategy if you have to make one, and you have to do it soon. So with that, I'm going to move on from that and mention one other thing that we should keep in mind. There are a lot of firms, and for a very long time, it was very fashionable to get hired by a company that said, we do no evil. We are on a mission. I think that there is a lot of attractiveness to working with a company or an organization that has a mission focus, that has something that marries with your vision about how the world works or how it should work. Google recently fired 20 more workers after the protest against its contract with Israel. And Google clamped down really hard on this and said that, listen, at the end of the day, we're a business. And this should remove any illusion that working for big tech is some spiritual calling. I think we really need to keep that in mind as you are with any firm, whatever they are. At the end of the day, they have an obligation to their investors, to their shareholders, that they need to be able to generate revenue, make a profit, and they also need to be able to work with their partners, customers, suppliers in a way that reduces the friction, and friction creates cost. So just keep that in mind as you go forward. Yes, there are some firms that are, as you could say, they maybe hold themselves to a higher standard, but I think the reality is, as we're discovering, there are fewer and fewer of them.
Well, I think that kind of goes in general, especially like once you get into the bigger business. I think the big wording sign was that once they lost their motto, "Don't be evil," which kind of was very strange to lose. But also, like, in general, don't bring your politics to work. I think that's and other things, because that creates a very, I would say, hostile working environment for everybody involved, especially if people like disagree with you.
Yeah.
And just doesn't have any place there, because you're there like you to do your job. And I think this is like very very recent trend that everybody's going to hold hands, and we are going to sing Kumbaya all together. And part of that is kind of like with the benefits at Google and other similar companies, kind of making you feel that it is a family. And which was like a lot of the time that that the HR people were saying, where like the Google family and similar. And it's like, you are not a family company. Stop using that word. You don't know. I don't think you know what it means, or at least you're not using it in what it should mean, especially in like a working environment. So I think that's, and I would say that's also changing with the from the polls I'm seeing with the younger generation, which is much more it's much more work and personal life separate, and work-life balance. While in the past it was you fully dedicate yourself to the job, it becomes your calling and everything. And like, even myself, if I say, you could say I'm like very much into open source and everything, I still separate that from my personal and political. I don't bring that in, or at least I try and as much not to. That's also why I'm like kind of perked with all these, or what's kind of become very fashionable to put on projects, different political statements, which I just don't feel belongs there. So I think that's something to very to consider, and I think big part of this is, and I think why these people were so, say, fired up to do and go and do all these things, is that they believe that everybody thinks like them. Everybody
Well, I
is
don't want to.
is in the same mold, because usually people, once somebody gets polygraphed up, it's like people usually like, oh yeah, whatever.
I think,
Or people that go with who have the same approach, like, and I go, oh, high five, yes.
Yeah,
that's
don't
the
think,
reality around the world.
I don't, I think there's some truth to that, but I think that the larger truth is that companies have sold themselves on, listen, you can bring your entire identity here and we'll welcome you entirely the way you are, and you can express yourself. And I think firms are now realizing, especially young tech firms that have grown up and now we're dealing with different customers, and are running into what kind of issues they may face themselves in terms of being able to do business well, is that in some cases they can't support that. In other cases, they never thought it would get to the level that it is today. And it's a complicated thing, I think. I don't want to put it all on the view that everybody's in this sort of groupthink idea that we all share the same identity, we all share the same political view, and so on. But I think, for a very long time, the advice from parents and grandparents was, keep politics and religion out of work, right? Because it just doesn't do well. And I think that advice, as old sounding as it is probably the most sagacious advice in terms of having a decent career where you don't run into these kinds of issues. Now, if that's the way you swing, that's the way you swing, but you have to realize there are going to be consequences to it. That's really all I want to do or say about this right now, because I think we can get into a very, very contentious discussion that I don't think would be very productive.
Yeah, I think we can do one of the hot topics on this.
That's a very hot topic. Well. That's a very hot topic. All right.
Yeah, but because my last point on this, I think, is like very much I would say like there like two things. One is law of unintentional consequences, that when these companies were setting up this approach, was like, oh, what could possibly go wrong, everybody, we are here for this and that. And second is to kind of as you said, as was the bring yourself fully to the work, fully dedicate yourself to the job. Then part of that is also like not thinking that there will be consequences if you if you do something like like burst into VP's office and do a sit-in. So
I think that's partly the fault of the companies themselves, right? Because they created the impression that you could bring your whole self and you could bring you could bring these things in. And if they find themselves in the situation today, I think they can only blame themselves for creating a false impression or a false narrative that this is how the companies run. So, everybody, I think, needs to grow up. So, in any case, I've been thinking about our old friend Aranota recently, and you and I had a discussion about Storybook not too long ago. I think there's something else that's related to Aranota that you discovered recently.
I'm not sure what you are talking about right now.
Well, right at the bottom over here, there is a point that Aranota Kadira's bulletproof Meteor domain has been picked up by somebody else.
Oh, yes. Apologies. So missed that. Was already thinking one step more ahead.
Yeah.
Let me go to that. This is something that will sadly will have to suffer through that there is a lot of outdated information, a lot of old links no longer working. We had here on one of the in the community forums, we had a new, I would say potentially a bot, kind of talking here about bulletproof Meteor and what it is, and it just generated total nonsense. That somebody called Matthew Platts has updated it in this year to be up to date. Which, if that happened, I have no information about that. I would be surprised that that somebody would not post on the forums. And then when I check the the old website, Bulletproof Meteor, that is taken over some WordPress site that's also mostly gibberish. So be very careful about some of the old resources as well.
I think that's good advice. It's one of the things that we're trying to do here is we're trying to overcome a lot of old material that's out there, that's outdated, that is no longer relevant, that can trip up new users to Meteor. So we'd like to see more and more content out there. We do this as an example to the rest of you. We hope that more of you will go out there, start your own podcast, maybe do a live stream, maybe even do some tutorials and current material. So that way we can overcome, the search results that show up. And unfortunately, a lot of those search results are, they're just not relevant today. And I'm going to do an episode on that not too long from now. I've been working on something where I go through and I show you where we rank relative to other materials that are out there. So our stuff is very current. There's a lot of stuff that's not. There's stuff that's 10 years old that shows up even before us, but we'll get into that in another episode. All right. And is there anything more in the news that we need to cover at this point?
Not that I have to. Well, maybe next week.
Okay. All right. And Gabs was saying that he has a picture of him and the Primogen together. That'd be great. If you want to put it into the Slack, we might be able to bring that picture up. Just, see if you can do that, and then we'll see whether or not we can share it. Okay, Gabs? All right. Camilla is also in the chat. Charles New is in the chat. Hey, Charles. William is in the chat. Hey, guys. How are you? And, of course, we have Jan from Germany. Not our Jan, but a different Jan, Jan P. He's in the chat also. Hey, guys. It's great to see you all there today. Thanks for joining us again. And, give us your feedback. Give us your thoughts on what we're talking about here. Now, we're going to go into that new segment that we started a couple of weeks ago called Helpdesk. We spent a little more time than I wanted to the first time. And so this time, what I'm doing right here is we are surfacing posts in the forums that I noticed a couple of days ago had no interaction with them, in the hopes that others in the community would pop over there, take a look at those posts, and then either help them out or just let them know that there's somebody there that might be able to give them some advice. But we don't want people feeling that they're posting things and they're being totally ignored. So with that, there is a post on Apollo client and server setup for Meteor version 3. And it is by one of our longtime members asking the question. So if somebody could get to this, whether it's from the team or from the community, and give an answer, yes, I know how to do this, or no, we haven't, or, this is something we're still working on, or nobody's tried it yet, whatever it might be, just get to them and let them know about it. There is another post called Meteor 3.0 migrations, and then there is a string called reference error dynamic versions _ dynamic versions _ is not defined. And this person is also trying to find out some information about what this error message means. So again, if somebody can get to them, give them some information, some feedback, that would be very much appreciated, I believe. Now, there is a third item here which is how to log in by WeChat account in Meteor version 3. I'm, again, this is one of the issues. They're using, I believe, the Accounts UI package, and they're not entirely sure how to integrate it or how to use it with WeChat. So if somebody has some idea or could just kind of say to them, hey, it's not supported or it is supported, whatever it is, let them know. There's fourth item that I found, which is the ArcGIS with Meteor 1.4 issue. And what does it say? Has anybody had any success integrating ArcGIS maps with MeteorJS web maps? So I actually find this to be a very interesting topic, and I don't have an answer for it. But if somebody else does, that would be great. So again, take a look at that one. And all of these links, by the way, we're going to post in the newsletter that gets sent out on Monday morning. And then finally, there is the saving data across page reloads. So there is an issue, it says here, with session storage data surviving a page reload. And again, go take a look. I don't want to spend time on this. Go read it, figure out whether or not you can help this person, and then, that's it. So that's a service we're offering right now. We're surfacing these things in Helpdesk. I believe, Jan, you have a different Helpdesk that you plan on doing where you're going to get deeper into specific topics. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. That's something I am looking to do. The idea, it's going to be 1 hour only, and I'm still figuring out the exact details, and it's going to be me and maybe Jan Küster or somebody else will start at the hour, end at the hour, and just go over things that come under our hand, or we'll debug it or try to find some things how to fix it, or just kind of go asking for more information to kind of advance things a bit forward. And we'll have also people can bring in their issues as well. I'm still trying to figure out the finer details, especially how often it's going to be. So that's still remains to see.
Yeah.
I'm thinking probably Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central European time will be this upcoming week. That's when we'll do the pilot episode, you could say, or pilot stream of this. But I don't think it's going to be every week. Probably like at least every other week.
Okay, so I mean, it's still being worked out, the details on that. The idea, though, is it's a standalone feature that is not part of This Week in MeteorJS. It's going to be its own item, and it's going to be interactive. And so if this is something that you think that you'd like to watch, that you'd like to see, please let us know in the comments. And that would actually help Jan a lot in terms of figuring out whether or not you should be spending time on this. So with that, I think we are going to move on from the help desk. We've got some useful resources. This episode, we're covering microservices versus monolith. And there is, I don't know if you have the link, Jan. But,
yes, I have just.
Okay, great. But there are some resources that if you're not very familiar with microservices, that you could go to and learn about it. There is a article from Liz Perotti from the NodeSource blog that's called Explain Like I'm 5, Microservices in Node. And it's a very clear explanation of what microservices are, how they work, and then there is actually some code examples of an implementation of a microservice with Node itself. So if you go further down, and of course she's got the advantages, disadvantages in it, which is great. And then there are some code examples down there. So go read that if you're not very familiar. It'll help you out. There is also the Microservices for Node.js, a handbook for safe and scalable development that is done by Niharika Bajaj. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly. I apologize if I messed it up. And that's from the Search My Expert blog. And over there, she also goes through an introduction of microservices and its use in Node.js. So between these two articles, there are a number of other resources. I've got a third resource for you, which is it's by Go. He's a YouTuber, and he does system architecture material. And he has a video called "What Are Microservices Really About?" And on top of that, there is a microservices best practices download. It's a little diagram that he provides that shows the different some different concepts to keep in mind. So there are 9 of them in the diagram. We're going to make that diagram available also in the newsletter this weekend. So we'll embed that. It's his stuff. It's his copyrighted stuff, but he makes it shareable, and we're sharing it to you also. I will give you a link back to the source where we got it. And with that, I think we are gonna. Is there anything else you want to cover here on this part of the? Oh crap! You know what? I just realized that you were going to be doing the by Go portion, and I just jumped all over it. I apologize.
No worries. That's nothing more for me to add there anyway. And I don't have really much to add, but it seems like the other Jan has a lot to add and talk about.
Why don't you take over on the Understanding Meteor segment and just, run that whole piece in terms of introducing Jan stuff, et cetera, et cetera.
So as I have mentioned at the beginning, Jan Küster, who cannot be with us today, is, I could say, the king, or at least the figureman for microservices with Meteor and how to do them. He has held many talks about this in the past. You can find it on, for example, like this one on the MeteorJS microservices talk about on MeteorJS New York channel. And if you look also on the Meteor Impact Conference channel, there's going to be at least one talk from Jan as well. And he was, he always get excited about these. So he has prepared for us, could say, introduction and explainer how microservices work in Meteor. So without further ado, let's get this rolling, and hopefully everything's going to come through.
Welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to create a microservice with Meteor 3.0. We will use the latest release candidate, Meteor 3.0 RC.4, and create a bare project to have the most minimal installation a Meteor project can have. With that, you will be able to run a headless or clientless Meteor microservice that allows external Meteor apps or other apps to connect either via DDP and call RPC-style endpoints via Meteor methods, or use HTTP-based transport to call express endpoints. For that, you simply go to your project, open your IDE, and create a new one via Meteor, create --bare, that will be the bare project, --release 3.0 -rc.4 to use the latest RC. This is very soon not required anymore, because then the final Meteor 3.0 release will be there, right? And then give it some nice name. Then Meteor will use the bare skeleton to create a super minimal Meteor project. And just by taking a look into the folder, you can see this is really just the .meteor folder, a package.json, and nothing else. And in order to get anything run, we need to create an entry point first. This is usually done by Meteor in every other project automatically. But for this bare project, we have to do it on our own. That's not a problem. We just enter Meteor, then a new entry main modules with S at the end. And then we define our main module for the server. We call the path server/main.js. And we have to create that, of course. So I'm going to do that with my IDE. Call the folder server. And then there's a main file in that server. And that's already enough to have Meteor known how to run these things. So we go into the folder and enter Meteor. Then it would automatically run the project without any additional functionality on localhost 3000. And in the meantime, I'm going to check the versions here. So this is all the installed Meteor packages you have. And this is really, really the most minimal in order to run a Meteor project. And we could even shrink that down when we go to packages. There are lots of things we don't need here. We don't need the mobile experience. We don't need static HTML. I'm sure we currently don't need tracker and reactive variable. And we also don't need the shell server. I'm not sure if I can safely delete TypeScript because maybe some internal packages rely on that already. But it looks good so far. So let me quickly remove this as well. Looks good. No errors so far. So this is even shrink down to the most minimal setup. We will use Mongo because we want to have some DB access. And now our version shrunk down to 57 packages here. This is really good. So from here, we're now creating a high-level entry point. So how are we going to do that? We want to have two functions: shorten a given URL, returning a code, and of course, restoring the URL by a given code. We don't want to do the redirect and things which a full URL shortening service does. This will be part of something else. This is just a microservice that just shortens an URL or returns a URL by the shortened code. So first of all, let me do some high-level work here, okay? I import the Meteor and the Mongo objects and create some Meteor methods. And we call the one method short, which takes a URL and then returns something. Okay, and then we also want to have the function URL, which takes a code and also returns something then. Fine so far. Okay, but then we also want to have HTTP routes because this microservice may not only interact with another Meteor application, but may also interact with some other applications that use HTTP instead of WebSockets and without the DDP protocol. So what we need to import as well is the so-called web app, which is a wrapper around Express. It allows us to define Express endpoints without the need to install Express and all that stuff. We use for that web app.handlers.get. It's the same as if we would say app.get if we have a native Express application. And then we say /short and request and response. This is the short route. And then we also want to have .get a URL route. Request and response. And that's our high-level API so far. Okay, so how are we going to implement this? First of all, why did I not implement straightforward within already the methods? Because we want to write one function and use it by Meteor methods and by the web app handlers. So in order to do that, I'm creating a new function called create shortcode, and we will have some MongoDB interaction. So it must be an async function, and it takes a URL, nothing else, and then it creates a code for us. So how could we do that? We could, of course, just create a hash for each URL, and that's okay. But what we want to do is we want to have one code for a given URL, and we want to store it in a collection this time, in order to later use the same code for the URL, and also for not being so predictable. Because if we are predictable, first of all, the hashes are very long, and then they're predictable, and maybe this is not what we want. So what we want is to first fetch a doc from a collection. Oh, there is a collection missing, no problem. Let's create a new Mongo collection. Const URLs collection is a new mongo.collection, naming URLs. That's fine. And then we need to get our document called URLs collection, find one async by the given URL. This is very important because we want to see if there is a code for this URL already, because then we just need to return it and don't need to randomly create a new one. So if there is no document, then we assume there hasn't been a code being generated for that doc. That's fine. So we create a new one. So the code is random.id, and I say the code is length of 8. And in future apps, we might check collisions here. But for now, this is fine. And we need to import that code, import random from meteor/random. And then we create a new document, await URLs collection, insert async with the given URL and the new code. Then we just create a new wrapper doc. That's fine. We don't even need to we don't need to do that. We just need to do that because in the end we just return doc.code. So this is what we return for creating a short code. But also checking if one exists, then we just return doc.code. If it not exists, we create a new one. And we can easily just use that, return it here, create short code by the given URL. And why don't I need any async here? Because this function will return a promise, because this is an async function, always returning a promise. And returning a promise will make the caller resolve the promise anyway. For completion, we could also write this as async, and then could say something like const. We could do it like this. We could say return code, and then something like this. This would be even more comprehensible in the end, because we actually know that this response will contain a code. Let's keep it like that. That's okay. And for the web app handlers, we are going to do the same. So first of all, we need to get the URL, and here it's a little bit more tricky because we have to first request query URL. Let's first keep it like that. Let's first do it without any of these, and then we create again the code. This code is await create shortcode by the given URL, and then we return response.json with this as a code. This is basically the HTTP endpoint. And if we want to run this now, so let's restart. We can easily check this with using something like CRL. So checking if it's running. It's running. That's good. CRL -I HTTP localhost 3000 short, and then as our query parameter URL equals, and then HTTP //foobar.tld, and then it gives us a code with these letters. And we can also check if we go into the project, we can also run Meteor Mongo from the command line. It will open the Mongo command line, and we can say db.urls, find one. And this is actually the correct code here. And from there, as you can see, that this is the URL stored. So what happens if we enter a slash at the end of the URL, which occurs sometimes? It will create a different one, but the URL is basically the same. So how do we want to treat that? We could easily create some kind of an helper function to clean the URL. So cleaned URL, and then we have something like, let's say we check if the end of the URL, first of all, maybe we want to trim. So let's say let cleaned is URL.trim. This trims all white space from the start and the end of the URL. And then we could ask it cleaned ends with a slash. Then cleaned is URL.sub, clean.substring from 0, the beginning, and cleaned.length -1. Then we have stripped the slash at the end, and then we return cleaned. So then we have our cleaned URL. We can use that here. So instead of the URL, we could say is cleaned URL this one. We can do the same here. Yeah. So then we have a cleaned URL and create a short code for both. So if I do that, it creates this one. Or first, let's check if it still needs to restart. So let's run this. Oh, now it returns the old code as we do without one. It's the same. It's basically treated as the same. And this can be adjusted to your needs. That's totally fine. But now we have this code and we want to get the URL back. And we can easily do that with a new function we call get URL. And then we have the code there. And what we need to do in this case is, of course, we need this time to find the document by code and not by URL. So let's see, doc equals await. It's an async function because we first need to await the URLs collection dot find one async by given code instead of URL, because we save, as you can see here, we save in the URL collection, we save URL and code, so we can search it by either of them. And then what we want to do is doc $.url. What does this do? This is basically checking return doc.url only if doc exists. If doc doesn't exist, it will return undefined. That's fine. This will prevent us from any bad things, so to crash if URL does not, if doc does not exist. What we want to do now is code equals request query code, and then we say const URL equals await get URL by given code. That's it. And then we return again a JSON, but instead with code with the URL. We can do a similar approach with the URL method in the Meteor method. So in that case, we only return /URL await get URL by given code. Okay, that's nice. Oh, and it's not async, so we need to make this async as well. So that looks good. I mean, we're 50 lines here, 51 lines, but I mean, that's really tight. So let's use that code now. Let me copy it. And instead of this, we do the endpoint URL and then code equals this one. I hope it's fine. Oh, and it returns the URL for me. And because we already saved the other URL with the slash here, it's already in the database. It will return this old unstripped version. And from here, that's it so far. And from this, you have already a fully functioning microservice. I mean, this is really, really micro, even nano. It just do two things. It resolves the URL into a code, and it resolves from a URL from code. And you can do lots of things with this. I mean, again, this is not a fully functioning URL shortener service, but this is like a foundation for such a service. And you can do now deploy this and connect this to any other apps, and or use this code as a basis and extend it to your needs. Build a fully fledged application service out of this. Do whatever you want, and you have plenty of options to deploy this. You can use Meteor Galaxy, which you can use via Meteor Deploy. -help gives you some interesting facts about what you can all do with Meteor Deploy. Basically, it's the #1 hosting for Meteor apps, and there's also a huge guide out there how to configure it, and this is a complete own documentation section in the Meteor docs for using Galaxy. Comes with multiple tiers. There's even a free tier. They have in their new Galaxy, they have MongoDB automatic integration for this. You don't need an extra Atlas subscription anymore. And if you are really short on money, or you really just want to do some fun and experimental service, there's also Meteor app, which is also called MUP. It's typed MUP, M-U-P. You can download it from NPM and deploy to your custom infrastructure, whatever you have, your bare metal server or DigitalOcean droplet, or whatever you're gonna have. And with this, I'm finished with this little tutorial. I hope you had fun and you learned something today, and hope to see you next time in the Meteor weekly stream this week in MeteorJS on our channel. Please subscribe and like, and check the channel out. Take a look in the other videos, and hope to see you next time in the live stream. Goodbye.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's very quick how to build a microservice, and we had some discussion in the chat in the meantime talking about it. And for me, really to use like a Meteor in a microservice is to kind of move out some heavy processing thing out of my main Meteor application, especially if I need user authorization or a Meteor specific package, because then for me microservices are all about specialization and just as you need it, which kind of has become, I would say, potentially one of the issues of if you don't need it that often, then there's the lag in start time. So that's one of the issue with microservices.
Okay. I am missing some materials here. I don't know why. This is bizarre.
Yeah.
So Jan, there's, I think, another entry here for you. Do you see it? At the bottom.
See. At the bottom.
Well, right after
Okay.
it's just, yeah, you see it?
Okay, so yeah, so as I was speaking about that, um, starting up things. Just want to say, as Jan mentioned at the end, this segment was brought to you by Galaxy, which is the official hosting for Meteor, and I use it personally. I'm very happy because of how easy it is used and to deploy. And also, as you have seen probably through the entire video, you can get $60 Galaxy credit by going to the Meteor software /dispatches offer and adding dispatches-60 in there. So together with all your other details. And then you will get the $6 discount, which can get you if you use something small a few months for testing things, or if you would try something bigger at least a month, unless you go too big, of free Galaxy to try everything out. And there's also Galaxy 2.0 coming along, which boosts a nice new design and everything. So if you deploy microservices or microservices built in Meteor to Galaxy, that's one way to get them. And you can also deploy now, Go microservices as well if you want to do something more special. That's with Galaxy 2.0, and more options are on their way. Anything else I missed, Alim?
I think we got it here. I think we got it. So we're winding down now. I just want to remind people, and Jan, I just popped something in our show notes here for us that we use internally to discuss things, but you might want to pop up these other two links. I just want to remind folks that that open source, as I've said before, is what we do here. And open source, although you get to use it freely, is not really free software. It is done on other people's time and their dime. We have many, many people in the open source community that contribute, whether or not it's the NPM packages, or if it is Meteor packages, or code to Meteor itself, or any other software that you use. If you use open source, it's built by other people. You should let them know that you appreciate the work that they do. Go to their GitHubs, give them a star, let them know that you appreciate them. And if you have the ability to do so, and they are asking for sponsorships, then see what you can do to help them out there. That's really all I want to say about this. Is both of our Jans work on Meteor, and they both have sponsorship pages. So if you get a chance, go let them know that you appreciate them. All right. And if you missed any of the past episodes, you can catch up on the podcast by going to our podcast list. And again, all of these links will be shared with you in the newsletter. So go sign up for the newsletter, and that way you'll get a nice resource that you can always go back to and get to the things that we talk about in here, including some of the downloads. And with that, unless you have something else to add, Jan, do you?
Not really. It's gotten here from hot to even hotter with storm brewing. So I will probably start shutting things down around here and take cover as the usual summer storms come in.
Okay, batten down. And with that, have a great weekend, guys. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay.